Hey everybody, what up? Who all we got in the house tonight? Amy Hogshead says happy Friday. I hope everybody had a happy Friday today. Hi Linda. Angie's wondering where spring went. Well, I've been wondering that for a while now. Crystal, Bill, Gracie, and Haley are here. Oh, congratulations, Crystal, on the addition to your family. That's great. Yeah, weird weather today, no doubt about it. Hi Daryl. Let's see here. Parker is in the house. How you doing? Let's see here. Who else we got? Mike and Miriam. Appreciate you guys coming out. Hi, Teresa and Rick. Thanks for being here tonight. Dave Jesson's here. Audra Sutton. Welcome. Bill Martin's here. Gene Smith and Daryl are here. My hands, Teresa, are still feel a little frozen. It's a tad on the chilly side, so appreciate you coming out. Let's see here. Who else we got? Eric. Eric's here. Good. And Laura. Linda Burkholder says no voice yet. Okay. Hi, Kim Kill. Sherry Louth is here. Gene, did you build your snowman today? I hope not. Dennis Childs, how you doing? Hi, Nikki. Margie and Doug Whitling. Hi, Bill. Hi, Scott. the Joseph is here. That's good. Let's see here. Hold on one second. Barb and Bud Fitzgerald just chimed in on my phone to tell me they're here. Who else I got here? All right, I'm trying to think who else I got to shout out here tonight. All right, very good. Okay. Anybody else? Oh, hi, Hecko. Hi, Cheryl. Appreciate you coming out. All right. Well, let's see here. I do believe we were promised a musical number tonight, so I was going through my options and trying to think about what we should do. I really feel like I shouldn't tie myself down to any particular genre. So tonight we're looking at country music, and this is what we would call probably new country. Now, all of you husbands out there, I know I am not a husband, but I'm gonna help you all out here tonight. Husbands, you have to sing along with me tonight, and I need you to sing this to your wife or significant other. You fellas got that? If you sing this song, she will really appreciate it. And so I really feel like you guys should make a go of this. And remember, we're doing this for fun, and I want to take this opportunity to apologize to the first person who did this song, whose name happens to be Blake Shelton. Yeah, we'll turn this up a little bit. Come on, guys, sing this song with me. Let's do this. Sometimes I'm the guy with the boys kicking it back. Some guy with a guitar singing on a country track. I might be the guy with an ice cold can, kicking up dust on an old farmland. When you walk into the party with you, girl, you change all that. And I'm just a guy with a girl everybody wants to know. Wishing you were there alone, wondering how I ever got your little hand in mine. Looking over at you like, ain't she beautiful? I'm invisible, but I stand right there and smile. You're right beside me, oh, and I see the same thing we're seeing. I don't mind being the guy with the girl. See what I mean, guys? Sing this. Come on, let's do it. It's funny how you do the way they do. They come walking up to me and they only want to talk to you. I'm never hypnotized. They keep staring at your hard green eyes. The heart's thumping when you come walking into the room. And I turn into the guy with the girl everybody wants to know. Wishing you were there alone. Wondering how I ever got your little hand in mine. Looking over at you like, ain't she beautiful? I'm invisible. They stand right there and smile. You're right beside me. Oh, and I see same thing they're seeing. I don't mind being the guy with the girl. The guy who don't know how he got her. But he ain't ever gonna let her, never gonna let her go. I'm just a guy with a girl everybody wants to know. Wishing you were there alone. Wondering how I ever got your little hand in mine. Looking over at you like, ain't she beautiful? I'm invisible, but I stand right there and smile. You're right beside me, oh, and I see the same thing they're seeing. I don't mind being the guy with the girl. No, I don't mind being the guy with the girl. I'm just a guy with the girl. It's a guy with the girl. Don't mind it, baby. Don't mind it, baby. All right. Yeah. Somewhere Blake Shelton's ears are ringing, I'm sure. Oh, dear. I better stop my phone. The next song coming up with a Celine Dion song. That could have been really bad. So, all right. Yeah, we better stop this. All right. All right, everybody. How many people are horribly offended by what I just did to that song? Awesome. All right. Oh, I got lots of comments here. Ooh, what are we doing here? Lowe's was entertaining. Joe Sutton, seriously, how? Come on, it wasn't that bad. Okay, probably was. Cowboy hat and Rick is howling also. So the bidders are not my friends anymore. Okay. Everybody's listening and cleaning. Are they not running out of the store yet? So, all right. Don't quit my day job. Trust me, I ain't going to quit my day job. Yes, Christina, I'm doing a little country tonight, just trying to mix it up. I think we should make Tim a permanent part of the Awakened Band, Bill. That's why you're not in charge. It's because of decisions like that. Cheryl and Jack here, jamming with the pastor. There you go. Love Blake. Have sound. Great expression. All right. Natural twang. Natural something. I don't know if it was twang. Thank you, Susan, for the good job. Linda says nice. Closed and cleaning. Missing the cowboy hat. Yeah, I don't own a cat. I got a stocking hat. I don't think that's the same thing. So, all right. Well, we're not going to do musical numbers every night, so don't be afraid of that. But I'm trying to branch out. And you're lucky I saved you because the next song coming up was by Celine Dion, and that could have been disastrous. So, all right, cool. Okay, after that, let's talk about like real stuff. Let's talk about Joseph here for a second. Joseph, for those of you who want to follow along, we have transitioned from the book study, which was Dangerous Prayers. Excuse me. We're now on to. Can we suggest a hum along? Yes. My Girl by the Temptations. I do know that song. I'm not going to take. You can make requests. I don't necessarily take requests. So there you go. All right. Now, any of you who are reading, Joseph's story starts in Genesis 37, which we covered last night. So any of you who weren't able to be with us last night, you can go on last night's live stream and get that. Let me turn this off. You can go on last night's live stream and get Genesis 37. Now, if you notice, I told you we're skipping Genesis 38. Any of you who actually went and read Genesis 38, you understand why. I don't know why Genesis 38 is here. It has nothing to do with Joseph's story. A couple of you have asked me about this. My explanation as to why this just horrendous story is here is it was a story that existed. My guess is it was a story that existed along with the rest of the scrolls that make up the book of Genesis way, way back in the day. And one of the scribes got one out of order. I mean, it's the only thing I can say because there's nothing about Joseph. There's nothing about anything going on here. It's just kind of stuck in there, and it's a really terrible story about a woman who was attacked. And so that's why we're going to skip 38, Genesis 38, because it has nothing to do with Joseph's story. And if you look, the way Genesis 37 ends and where Genesis 39 picks up, they fit together. So, yeah. So if you wonder, why aren't we doing Genesis 38? Go read Genesis 38 and you'll realize why that's just not something we're going to deal with in the scope of this study. So are there some things there that we could, learn and reflect on and that kind of stuff? Absolutely. But not for this study. So, okay. All right, so let's review. Where has Joseph been? Joseph was a young man. He was 17. And he did not endear himself to his brothers. He, he was a tad full of himself. Jacob didn't do anything to help because he was always telling them, you're the best, you're the man, you're my favorite. Everybody knew that he loved Joseph more than any of the rest of his brothers. And any of you who have kids or have been kids know that that's something that just don't fly too well. So there was jealousy, there was anger, and that's always a recipe for disaster. And that's exactly what happened. So Joseph had the coat of many colors given to him by his dad, which was basically like drawing a bullseye on the poor kid. So it was a bad situation all the way around. So in the midst of this, the brothers are out with the flocks, out doing their thing. Dad sends Joseph to go check on them, and because he's the one who's got a tattletale on him, so he sends him out. And hey, Candy and Tim, welcome. Sends him out. So Joseph is going. The brothers see him. Hey, isn't that the brother we all hate? Obviously, the coat of many colors. Because again, I have a blue shirt on tonight. You guys have clothing on of all different colors. That was not the way things had always been. So to have this very colorful coat would have made him stand out, which is kind of the point. So they see him from a long ways off. They decide we're going to take care of him right now. They say, well, let's not kill him. Let's throw him in a cistern and, let nature take its course. They did that because Reuben, the oldest brother, said, well, I'll come back and get him out later. We discussed exactly what Reuben's motive to save Joseph may be. It's a debate because we're not told. So then the other brothers are there eating, and all of a sudden they look over and they see some Ishmaelite traders. I told you Ishmaelites would have been distant cousins to this group because Isaac, their grandfather, they were like uncles. So the Ishmaelites would have been their cousins. And so they sold Joseph to them instead of killing him. We can debate, if that was better or not. I mean, we can honestly have a conversation about that. And then so they took him off. So that's where we left off last time. Poor Joseph, the spoiled son of daddy's favorite, getting drug away. And what just an absolutely cold and heartless moment that must have been. Joseph is screaming and crying, I don't want to go, take me home, please. And they watch him get drug off into a foreign country. That is hardcore cold. So their hatred for this kid had to be pretty real. So that's where we are. That's where we left off last time. So now we're going to pick up Genesis 39 and kind of work our way through. Everybody still with me? I got 37 people logged in right now. And so everybody jump in the comments. Tell me what you think about hardcore cold The hardcore cult people that we had. Could you have done that? Could you possibly have hated somebody enough to do what these brothers did to Joseph? Could you bring yourself to do that even to your worst enemy? Because I really need you guys to identify just what a absolutely cold and heartless thing this was. Because you need to understand. Yeah, I hope not, Gene. That's a very good answer. You need to understand just what a terrible thing this was. Because very harsh. Eric, you are correct. Anybody else here? Linda says no. Bill says scary thought. I wouldn't even think. Yeah, Teresa. Yeah, I would like to think I wouldn't even consider such a thing. You know, I might get on his case and I might call him names or whatever, but I'm not going to do that. Christina says may have thought about it, depending on how annoying the guy got. Amy and Angie say no. It's pretty severe. People are capable of doing things when they're in a crowd. Yeah, groupthink, crowd mentality. You're right, Gene. Those are dangerous things. So, I mean, it's possible, and again, we're not told this, but I mean, it's very possible that some of the brothers hated him more than others. And I mean, obviously, Reuben must not have hated him that bad because he was at least going to try to get him out. So, yeah, that's not something that we want to think about. Okay, well, let's jump down to Genesis 39, and we're going to start going. Okay, so remember, Joseph just got drug away from his brothers by these people who are apparently now his owners. And these guys, remember, they were traders. So they were, Cheryl says, selling him as a slave could have been worse life than living. Yeah, I mean, that could have been the worst of the two options. I mean, we could certainly make that argument, Cheryl. I think very easily support that. So, okay. So they just got drug off. They're traders, which means, you know, they decided to pick up the slave for whatever, I think it was 20 pieces of silver they gave for him. So they want to get their investment back. So they take the slave into a foreign country, Egypt. No coincidence is where the Israelites end up generations later that Moses goes to rescue them. So they go into Egypt. And here we go. So if you're following along, if you got your Bible open, we're in now Genesis chapter 39, verse 1. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Okay, so, I mean, as you would expect traders to do, traders probably don't have much need for slave help. He was probably worth more, and I can imagine Potiphar being captain of the guard for Pharaoh. He probably wasn't exactly a poor guy. So he was probably able to pay a pretty good. And remember, you know, how old is Joseph? 17. So he's still strong and we're guessing relatively healthy. So Potiphar purchases him. Now, verse 2. I'm only going to read the first. Actually, I'm going to read verse 2 and get ready. I'm going to ask for comments on this verse. Now, remember, I went over in meticulous detail everything that happened to Joseph up to this point. Okay? I haven't held anything back. You guys have been a part of this as much as I have. So based on everything I've said, I would like your comment on Genesis chapter 39, verse 2, which says, the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with Joseph. So he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. This may be the most important verse of Joseph's entire story. This may be the most important thing that happens throughout this entire story. I told you last week, what is the point of, what is Joseph's story really about? It's about canceling a famine. A famine is coming and it's going to wipe out everything in its path. It's going to be a bad one. It's going to last for 7 years. We have been, 4 weeks here and shut down for coronavirus. And look what's happened. Could you imagine doing this for 7 years? I hope we don't have to I hope in 7 years we don't even remember this anymore. But 7 years is a long time. 7-year famine is bad. And since God is getting ready to raise up a hero to cancel a famine, and Joseph is going to be that chosen man, what happens here? And I'm going to ask this question a lot. What happens here if Joseph continues to be who he was? Now think about that with me. Everything we've read about Joseph in chapter 37. Tell me some of the ways we would describe Joseph that we read last week. Was he industrious young man? Was he particularly bright? Was he particularly talented? Was he particularly hard worker? Was he any kind of positive thing that we would think of that you'd want working for you? Was Joseph any of those things? When the brothers were in the field, where was Joseph? When Joseph was having dreams, he was arrogant and he was spoiled. That's right. Does that sound like good ingredients for a slave? Look, I know none of us have ever owned slaves, and none of us would ever do such a horrendous thing. But if you're looking for somebody to work for you, okay, here, let's read some of these here. Bill says self-centered and indulgent, clearly. Teresa says self-centered and spoiled, clearly. 17 and immature, says Daryl, clearly. Prideful and lazy, clearly. Do any of those words sound like a way you would describe a productive slave? Is there anything in any of that description that makes you go, gosh, I sure would like to have that guy work for me? Immature, Eric, very good. Is there any part of that would make you say, man, but that guy'd be one killer slave? I would like to be responsible for that guy to do work. No, there's nothing about that sounds like this is going to work out well. I'm sure, based on what the brothers knew about Joseph, that it was truly their intent to rip off the Ishmaelites. Because they knew he was lazy, good for nothing. He wasn't going to work. He wasn't going to cooperate. He was used to being spoiled. And he was used to getting his own way. And he was used to having the favor of the people who were in charge of him. None of that would be something you want to deal with out of somebody you saw as being beneath you. There's no way. He doesn't know how to work. He doesn't have any skills. He's having dreams about greatness. I mean, that's always great. I mean, how many of you have ever dealt with somebody who was just so impressed with themselves that they didn't need to do anything to prove it to you? I mean, they're the bee's knees, man. They are the best there ever been. That doesn't make a good worker. That doesn't make somebody you enjoy dealing with. None of that stuff. Okay, so Jacob, Potiphar, and the warden all spotted God-given talent. Very well may have. Maybe they saw something there, but I'm telling you what, and based on what Genesis says, I ain't seeing it. Now, I'm not denying that there may be more than meets the eye here. I'm fine with that. But I agree more with Teresa. Joseph would have been knocked off his pedestal. And that's kind of the point I wanted to make. Maybe they were recognizing talents that weren't there. Clearly, we're going to find out Joseph was an incredibly talented man. But at this point in the story, at Genesis chapter 39, verse 2, we haven't been told anything that suggests that. So, I want you to think about this. I didn't pull out my map and check. If one of you want to Google this and find out, that's fine. But to go from where Joseph was when he met up with one of his brothers and had this bad experience, end up in the cistern and got sold, there was a journey. The Bible doesn't go into the details. Man, I wish they would have. Because there was a journey between the screaming, petrified kid that got drug away by the Ishmaelites and the person who arrived at Potiphar's house. Now, the Bible just kind of glazes over there. Whoo, just runs right past it. But something happened there. That boy became a man on that journey. He grew up. He left some of this prideful stuff behind him. Bill Hard wonders if he prayed a dangerous prayer. I think that is an excellent question to ask because I can't imagine at this point he didn't. Something happened on that trip. And it wasn't, I mean, to me, and I know Joseph's story, and many of you have read it. I don't think Joseph was broken. I mean, I can understand he was probably really upset, but I don't know that he was broken by it. It wasn't like they broke down his will or, took away his will to survive or whatever. I think exactly the opposite. Whatever was happened on this trip, and again, we'll have to speculate, I was going to say hardened, but that may not be the right word. It made him strong. It gave him an inner strength that when he got to Potiphar's house, he was a full-on man at this point. And he went in and took charge. And because this is what men do. I mean, you want to talk about a manly statement? Guys in the crowd who just sang to your wives. How many of you guys that are out there right now, jump in the chat and tell me, how many of you would like to have verse 2 written about you? The Lord was with you so that you succeeded in everything you did as you served in the place where you serve. In his case, it happened to be his Egyptian master. How many of you men would like to have words like qualified and successful and powerful and leadership potential? Guys, how many of you would like to have that said about you by anybody? How many of you would like to have that said about you? Jump in the chat and tell me. Anybody want to have that said about them? Anybody? Nobody? I got a yes from Bill Martin. Well, I'll say it. Heck yeah, I'd like to have that said about me. All right, Eric says sign me up. Scott Moran's in. Nikki's even in. Cool. Dave, I mean, sure. We would love that. Sherry, Joseph faced a 30-day journey through the desert. Is that what did you look it up and find out? So 30 days. So 30 days he had to go, and he was probably, I'm sure he wasn't like free and walking. I'm sure he was restrained in some way. So that's 30 days is a long time. That's how long we've been in quarantine, almost to the day, I think. We've been in quarantine for that long. How much have you learned in the last 30 days? I learned a lot about this contraption here I'm talking to. I've learned a lot about how to navigate and do church without a church building. I've learned a lot about how to connect with people without connecting with them. I've learned the importance of praying. I now will never, for the rest of my life, ever again, am I ever going to take for granted worship on Sunday morning in church with the people I love the most. Never taking that for granted ever again. Got to treasure every opportunity. Because, man, it's been a long time. Those are the kind of things you can learn in 30 days. And that's what Joseph learned in 30 days. He got his values turned upside down. He got his head screwed on straight. And by doing that, when he showed up at Potiphar's house, he showed up ready. Did God need the Joseph of Genesis 37 to transform into the Joseph of Genesis 39 in order to fight the famine? Was one of the steps in the process of stopping the famine, which is coming a couple days from now, is the process of stopping the famine. Did God need the Joseph of Genesis 37 to become the Joseph of Genesis 39? Did God need that? Did God need the Joseph of Genesis 37 to become the Joseph of Genesis 39? I'm getting a couple of yeses here. I agree. God was about to turn one man loose against a famine. And going back to my Demolition Man analogy, sometimes you got to send a maniac to stop one. And that's what God needed. God needed a maniac. And that's exactly what he was finding in Joseph. A maniac does not tattletale on his brothers, does not sit in the house and have somebody fan him and feed him grapes while the brothers are out working. A maniac doesn't, tell people his dreams that, boy, I'm so much better than you just because I said so. That's not what they do. But that's what God needed Joseph to do. And so Joseph was going to have to go on a journey, a 30-day journey. Now, the reason I say this like this, and I put this out there to you, is I need you to know that sometimes we go on these journeys. Sometimes we find ourselves on the Joseph 37 to Joseph 39 journey. And it's hard and it's awful. But what God has in mind is he has something that he needs to get us to another place to address. It's true, Bill. He didn't stop the famine, but he allowed a lot of people to survive it. That's exactly right. The famine still happened, but the people didn't die. But in the midst of doing that, God, in order to address what was going to happen, needed, and we're going to see there's a whole bunch of, we're only at one. There's a whole bunch of steps in this process. And God needed Joseph to walk this road, needed somebody to walk this road. And Joseph was the one that God called. Now you could say, Pastor Tim, called? He got thrown into a cistern and then sold as a slave. How did he get called? Well, here's the deal. He could have decided to be a spoiled rich kid once he was sold, once the Ishmaelite traders bought him. And, it could have been bullheaded and immature and cried and refused to be cooperative. And so let's say 20 days into that 30-day journey that he took from where his brother sold him to Egypt. What if at day 20, the Ishmaelites said, we're not going to be able to sell this kid? What happens to him? What happens to Joseph the moment that the Ishmaelites decide he's not worth the 20 pieces of silver they paid for him? What happens to him? What do the Ishmaelite traders do with him as soon as he's not worth the 20 pieces of silver they paid? What happens to Joseph the moment the Ishmaelite traders realize he's not worth the 20 pieces of silver they paid to get him? What happens to him? Boy, the lag is really bad tonight. Yep, dead. Exactly. Because they ain't going to feed him no more if they're not getting nothing out of it. Remember, what do traders do? They make a profit. As soon as he becomes more trouble than he's worth, they ain't feeding him no more. He's dead man walking. That's exactly right. And so in order to survive, Genesis 37 Joseph had to become Genesis 39 Joseph. Now, in the midst of that, it wasn't just that Joseph was self-preserving himself. Not only did he cooperate, but according to this, he became successful. In those 30 days, he learned some stuff. He picked up some things. Now think about all the things they could have sold Joseph to do. I mean, there's a lot of places they could have sold him. Yet he ends up in an Egyptian officer's household. Now I understand that that's no guarantee that things are going to go well for him. But it does seem, I mean, at least they didn't sell him to the Colosseum so he could get fed to the lions and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different things could have happened to him. And just so happened he ended up in an influential man's house. Now we're going to find out that didn't exactly go well for him. But that's where he started out. And he learned the value of being an entrepreneur. He learned the value of being aggressive. He learned the value of being in charge. He learned the value of doing a good job. He learned the value of knowing his surroundings. He learned the value of reading situations and reading people. And he learned exactly, Cheryl. He took the opportunity to learn because he had been refined in the fire that Teresa's talking about there. And by being refined in that fire, he became a more valuable asset in the pocket of the Lord. And all of a sudden, this famine that was coming, that was looking to be a world ender, now is starting to see the possibility of a formidable adversary in the form of Joseph, formerly of the coat of many colors. Now, not only did Joseph become successful, not only did he do well and thrive and whatever else, verse 3, Potiphar noticed this. Potiphar, like perhaps a couple of other people along the way, I know somebody mentioned this, started to see something special about this kid. He's got some skills that he did not display until now. At least not to us. Because Genesis 37, Joseph, he wasn't displaying any skills. No skills at all. Suddenly, Genesis 39, 3 verses in, he has shown so much success that his owner, his slave owner, noticed. That's a lot of success to show. So Potiphar noticed this. Apparently the good Lord pointed it out to him. So Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph. Understand, this person did not worship the Lord. He was an Egyptian. He would have worshipped the sun god Ra or somebody. But it says there that he realized that the God of the Hebrews, God of Israel, was with this young man. The Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. And to no one's surprise, verse 4, this pleased Potiphar. I mean, any of you who've ever had somebody work for you, once in a while, you'll come across that person you're in charge of who shows, a little more skill than you thought they would have, and a little more ability than you expected them to have, and be able to overachieve a little more than you thought they'd be able to. And suddenly you're like, maybe on to something here. And because everybody likes people to work for them to be successful. I got people who work for me, and I love it when they're successful. And I love doing everything I can do to help them be successful. And, that's a great thing to watch somebody who's, you're kind of mentoring and working with to come along, be successful. So this pleased Potiphar. So he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. Friends, we are 4 verses. This many is 4. 4 verses from chained up as a slave to sidekick to the guy, one of the guys in charge. This many verses. That's 4. 4 verses. That's all the longer it took him to go from being at the bottom of a cistern, then chained up, walked out, to becoming the right-hand man, the personal attendant to an Egyptian officer. Now, I understand more time passed than just 4 verses. I get that. But that's a pretty quick rise, wouldn't you say? From the spoiled rich kid who, got he lost his coat, and then they drug him off to a foreign country. I mean, from that kid to this kid, there's a lot of change happening fast. And my friends, what I want you to see is not all the time, but some of the time, this is how God works. There's a lot. And look, I'm about to say this and say, you guys shouldn't do this. And the reason I'm saying you shouldn't do this is because I know this guy shouldn't do it either. But we sometimes get a little frustrated with God that he doesn't seem to work faster. Believe me, no bad words from me about that, because I would be a hypocrite if I did. But what I have found, though, is while I find myself aggravated a lot that God doesn't seem to be doing more or moving faster, I've also found, though, that once God starts to move, stuff does happen pretty fast. I can remember coming out of a bad situation in my past where the whole world was falling apart, and it was hard. It was hard. I couldn't sleep and I didn't feel well and it just so much stress. And it was amazing how quickly that turned from just the depth of my soul to turn around to a much better place. It happened pretty quickly. And changes happened very, very quickly during that season. Now, did I wish it would have happened about 3 years faster than it did? Yes. But it was pretty incredible how once God started to move, the movement was decisive and really turned things around for the better. And maybe some of you can even attest to that. How it was a rough road getting there, but by George, once you got there, it really started to move quickly. I feel like that's what happened for Joseph. He was at a rough place and he went on this journey, and God really started doing some things through him by pulling him out of the spoiled rich kid that he was. Okay, so Joseph is now this Egyptian officer's right-hand man. Chapter 39, verse 5. From the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All of his household affairs ran smoothly. His crops and livestock flourished. Cheryl's got a question here. If the Egyptian officer could see God was with Joseph and how good and powerful God is, then why did he not start believing in our God as well? Well, all right, that's a great question. I would say he at least recognized that God because of how Genesis 39 words this. It says that the Egyptian or that Potiphar looked at and recognized that the Lord was with Joseph, and he credited that with why Joseph was so successful in all these things. He looked at Joseph as being a very blessed young man, and because of that, that's why Potiphar was willing to give so much authority and so much power to Joseph in what appears to be a relatively short amount of time. So I would say that the Egyptians would have, at least the Egyptians would have recognized it was possible. Now, the other thing you need to know about Egyptians, and I don't want to get too far into this, but just keep this in mind. The Egyptians were pantheists. Means there were lots of gods all over the place, and they had all kind of gods for everything. So for them, the Hebrew God that we would have said was the one and only God, they would have seen that as, it's another God. It's the God of the Hebrews. That wouldn't have been a problem for the Egyptians. So they would have recognized the Lord God as, one of the gods that are out there, where we would go, that's kind of an exclusive club of one. The Egyptians would not have seen it that way. So for them to embrace another God would have been not in any way contradictory to any way that their faith system worked, because they had gods all over the place, because they were pantheists. And so this particular God, the God of the Hebrews, the God of the Israelites, was blessing Joseph, and they're like, yeah, his God's doing well for him. And the Potiphar was like, man, I might as well yoke this and see what we can get out of it. And as you're about to find out, Potiphar could not have been happier with his decision. So that's kind of how the Egyptians work. Good question. Thank you for that. Okay. So Joseph is now in charge. Everything is going just absolutely peachy. And there's a great line here, verse 6. Now tell me, if you were going to hire a personal assistant, somebody to kind of see to your affairs and handle some of the details and stuff in your life, and go around and do all this, and you found yourself in Potiphar's position here in verse 6, I'm about to read to you, I would like to know what your performance evaluation of your assistant would be. So suppose you were Potiphar saying this, verse 6. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except for what kind of food to eat. Performance evaluation of Joseph. How is he doing? If Potiphar's biggest concern in life is, hey, What we have for supper? That was his biggest concern in life. How high is Joseph's performance rating at this point? Somebody like to comment? How high is Joseph's performance rating if the only thing Potiphar has to worry about is what he's having for supper? 10 out of 10, Parker. That seems pretty appropriate. He's maximizing, I would say so. Definite plus. Through the roof, very high. Yep, obviously. He's going to get slave of the century at this point. So I don't know if that's a good price to win or not, but Potiphar's pretty happy. Whatever he paid for Joseph, and I don't remember if we were told. I don't know that we were told. I'm assuming it was more than 20 pieces of silver because you assume the Ishmaelite traders at least made a little profit on him. Ended up being a great investment because everything just went peachy. It was great. And, everything was just going fantastic. So, all right, so everything was going wonderful. And it says there, so Potiphar's biggest concern was what kind of food to eat. And it says Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man. Okay. So Potiphar realized that he had a good thing going. Joseph was really, just bringing the thunder on all this stuff and really knocking it out of the park day in and day out. And he was real happy. He was a handsome young man to boot. And lo and behold, who else noticed? Verse 7. And Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come and sleep with me, she demanded. I mean, apparently he was doing a really, really good job. So much so that everybody noticed, including the wife. Okay, so she made some... there's what are they called? Women who go after young cougars. She was a cougar and was really after him. And this has got inappropriate in every conceivable way that you can define the word inappropriate. It is represented in Potiphar's wife. So come and sleep with me, she demanded, but Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held nothing back from me except for you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? He refused to sleep with her and kept out of her way as much as possible. I'm going to draw a line right there. This is where we're cutting it off tonight because there's a whole discussion I want to have about how he ends up in the predicament he ends up in. And I want to have a whole night to deal with that, not 7 minutes. So that's where we're going to stop for tonight. But so what he did was, he's in a bad situation here, which is odd to say given everything else that's happened. But he's doing his work. He's being successful. He is just knocking it out of the park. Everybody loves the kid. Everything is flourishing. And suddenly Potiphar's wife decided she wanted some of that as well. And Joseph did the honorable thing. He said, no. First of all, you're old enough to be my mom. Second of all, I'm still not interested. And third of all, why would I want to give up all this privilege that I got here in the house to deal with you? So pass, and more pass. Out the door. So that's what he decided to do. And he doesn't seem to even consider that very long. And I'm sure that she was not terribly thrilled with that. But that's where I want to cut it off tonight because then we'll have a discussion tomorrow night around one very small error that Joseph makes that costs him a lot. And we'll get to that tomorrow night. So I want to take the last couple of minutes that we have here, last 10 minutes or so, and I want to talk about two things. First of all, reflections on Joseph so far. Jump in the comments and tell me what you think. How we doing? You following the story okay? Is this study moving fast enough? Because I spent like half an hour on one verse because I just felt like it. So jump in the comments and tell me if this is taking too long or if we need to speed up or whatever, because I have no way to get feedback from you. So I just have to have you tell me. I want to make sure this is still working. 35 of you have been logged in solidly now for 45 minutes. So I appreciate that. I want to know that you're enjoying this and this is something that's going to be meaningful to you. So jump in the comments and tell me that. All right. The other thing, why you guys are formulating your thoughts about this study and whether or not we need to adjust how this is progressing. And I just want to tell you, I'm loving this. I really enjoy it. Okay. Thank you all. Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. You guys are too kind. I love doing it this way. It makes me feel, it makes me feel better about all the money I paid to go to seminary, because I get to use all that stuff I learned. That's awesome. So I appreciate the chance that you guys give me to do that. We are going way more in depth than what I can do on a Sunday morning during a sermon, because this is not a sermon we're having here; it's a study, and it's a whole different ball game. Okay, I would like to come back to this thing that I keep torturing you guys with. Jump in the comments and tell me, are you still working on these? I really want you to take these seriously. And I know we're done with dangerous prayers, but I don't feel done with this yet. I'm still filling mine out. I have maybe half of the lines filled out, but this is something I really want you to reflect on and think about. And I want to know just how this is going. I'm not asking for details because this sheet is yours. And I want it to stay yours. But I'd like to know about the worksheet. Is anybody doing anything with that? Working with that still? Audra, I got your question today. Thank you for that. And Jess is still working on it. All right. Do you have any questions about this? Okay, Kim's got about 4 of them to finish. Angie's still working on it. If you have any questions about this. And while you're typing that in there, feedback on Joseph and questions about this, I have a shout out that I forgot to do tonight. I would like to shout out Joe and Marcia Bowman, who have not yet figured out how to comment, but they told me in the greeting thing we had tonight that they are here. So they're one of the 36 who are not commenting. So Joe and Marcia, thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys making the effort to be here. And I appreciate your willingness to be here. And before we sign off, I do want to say a word. We had a bunch of people turn out tonight for the thing. Susan, how many did I say we had? Do you remember? Susan, if you're here, jump in and tell me how many we had. I forget how many it was. But yeah, I was rendering the video, and the video was over 8 minutes long of greetings and stuff for Sunday. So Sherry says she has a pushy accountability partner. Accountability partners are supposed to be pushy. That's what we pay them for. So Candy and Tim are still working on it. Teresa has, okay, she's still working on it. Good. Eric, good. 35. There were 35 of us people here tonight who came through for the greeting time. So we're going to have like 8 minutes of people coming through. And, well, Audra, I'm hoping this is the last one we do because I hope the quarantine is over. But if not, let's see what we can do. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what we're going to do. At some point, we're just going to have to be brave and go out. And I'm just not sure when we're getting to that point. We may not be there yet, but just keep praying about COVID-19. We need that monster to go away. We had 35 individual videos, and almost all of those videos, Teresa, represented multiple people. And it was cold. I'll tell you that. My fingers, I could finally feel them. It was cold out there, and I had on 2 sweatshirts and a hat. So, yes, Audra, me too. Praying for that first date. Because, yes, I want to get church back together, obviously, but the economy we can't sustain this for long. A lot of people are hurting, and I've had conversations with a lot of people over the last couple of days. Things are really starting to pinch, and just worried about where that's going to go. To all of you who brought food both on last Thursday and tonight, I got another whole pile of food down there for Agape. You guys are just awesome. And I appreciate that. Actually, somebody did bring me a hot chocolate, and Susan drank it. Thanks, Suze. But yeah, but I'm not a big hot chocolate drinker, so that's fine with me. But thanks, Teresa. Also, Joyce Koenig, I'm going to call you out too. Joyce Koenig sent me a couple pieces of angel food cake. They both were delicious. So thank you for that. And thank you for the angel food. Angel food cake is my favorite. I love it, especially the like the Amish, the heavy kind. That's good stuff. And so thank you for that, Joyce. And the cinnamon roll, I didn't get to those because I was too busy with the angel food cake, but I'm going to get there. So yes, the drive-through was nice. I wanted to hug all of you while you were here, but I didn't want to kill you. So I'm glad we refrained from that. But Linda, it was so great to see you guys. And we're going to keep figuring out a way to do this. The message is hope, guys. I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going to get there. And, just hang in there. We're going to keep doing this live stream every night so everybody has a chance to get in and interact. Try to keep you as connected as I possibly can because it's all we can do. So, yeah, Joyce, we're going to make arrangements to come see you next week and bring the camera over and get some video because I have too many people clamoring for video of Joyce Koenig, and I feel like I have to deliver. So I'll come over and maybe we can sing a duet or something. So, all right. Oh, good. I have all the video for Sunday. It is now in my possession. I'm going to go down to the sanctuary as soon as I sign off here. And I got a little more editing to do, and I got to film a few more things. And you guys would not believe how much work goes into doing Sunday morning live. Is so much easier than this. Oh my gosh. Just a lot of formatting and editing and putting things in. And this week, Daryl and Jean came over, and I was putting the scripture and stuff in the video, and it is an arduous process. So thank you to Josh and the band. It's just going to be Josh this week, and Daryl and Jean doing some music. I've already got music for the following week from them, and just appreciate them. I'm going to drop some stuff off to Kurt Eversman in the morning, and he's going to upload some stuff for me, and I'm going to upload the other half of it. So it's just it's a lot. It's so, and like I said, it's so much easier to do these things live, and yeah, names and faces. I don't know how many names there are going to be in this. It's going to be mainly faces because there's a lot of people coming through here, and I already formatted the video. So all I did was I took the raw footage I had and I threw it all up there. I didn't do any real editing to it. The only editing I did is I deleted a couple of mistakes I had, and I had one clip of a couple that came through, and I had the stupid microphone off. So they're talking, but there's no sound. And I put in a footnote there that Pastor Tim screwed up the sound on theirs, but it's all there. So, yeah. So, all right. Thank you, Ange. And All right. Well, I think we are at that magical time that we get to about this time every night where I give you some advice. I tell you I love you all, and I do love you all, and I miss you all very much. It was so wonderful to see those of you who were able to come out and be a part of that. I hope that pretty soon we'll be able to see each other in like real life. I'm hoping for that. So, and well, Linda, you're very well. It's the least I can do for you guys is to make those videos and these videos. So. All right. Jess, you're getting a little ahead of me here. So, very good. Well, you guys are all awesome. I love you all very much. I hope that you are enjoying this study. I hope you'll be back tomorrow night. I'll send out links tomorrow. And we'll continue to find out, learn Joseph's story and be a part of this conversation. So, everybody have a great night. Sleep tight. Have a good dream about something wonderful, like doing something social or going to a restaurant. And enjoy yourself. Tomorrow's Saturday. We'll be back together here, good Lord willing, tomorrow night. And y'all know what you got to do now. Go wash your hands.